That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, so every time we make one of these videos, we get a ton of positive feedback. People on locals love it. And at the same time, I know people on YouTube really enjoy watching us break down some dynasty trades. So we are going to be looking at real dynasty fantasy football trades. These were made within the past week, or at least should have been. That was what I said on the locals post. But of course, before we get into it, please go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, and most importantly, make sure you go down there, leave a comment letting me know any trade that you have made. Real trades, not trade questions, nothing that was made a month ago either. A trade that you made over the past week. I'm going to be going down there and trying to respond to as many of those comments as I possibly can. But I think that should be it. Let's go through and let's not waste any time because we have a ton of trades to be looking at here. And our first one going to be coming out from Ryan, says Rashad Penny for the 206. Now, we were talking about selling Rashad Penny at the price of the 201, the 202 previously in 12-team Superflex rookie drafts. I mean, at the beginning of this offseason. And I will say, if you could still get that price where you can sell Rashad Penny for the 201, the 202, I am all aboard. Now, where we get down to the 206, it's a little bit of a different story. I will definitely say this is Rashad Penny's actual value. I mean, if I pull up our most recent Patreon startup draft, Rashad Penny literally went right before the 206, the pick before. So you definitely aren't losing when you trade Rashad Penny for the 206 or the 206 for Rashad Penny. What I will say is, y'all know I'm a Rashad Penny believer. I mean, looking at our prospect model that we have had, literally he's the only running back that hits the thresholds that we search for that is busted really over the past 10 years. If he hits those elite level thresholds. Rashad Penny has always had the talent. The issue is the inability to stay on the football field. This is something we've discussed over and over and over again. I really don't think this has changed whatsoever. I am concerned about Rashad Penny's future, given the fact that, I mean, Seattle currently looks like they're full on tank mode. And if that's going to be the case, I see no reason for them to re-sign Rashad Penny. So don't know where he's going to land up. I'll say it's a fair price. Really does depend if you're a rebuilder or a contender, even though I know that's a really crappy answer. And now our next trade is going to be traded Michael Pittman and the 212 for a 2023 first. So the 212, I know maybe you're excited. Maybe you're thinking that you're going to be able to get someone like James Cook. But let me pull up, I mean, who I actually have ranked there at the 212. I have John Mechie there personally, right afterwards, Jerome Ford, James Cook, Zamir White. I mean, so those are the players that you should be expecting to have in a 12-team Superflex league with your 212 selection. So essentially, this is Michael Pittman for a 2023 first-round pick. And I will say, give me the first-round pick. With Pittman, of course, he did take that step up this past year, but projecting forward with the Indianapolis Colts, very hard to see how their quarterback situation gets that much better. With Michael Pittman, yes, he had that year 2 breakout, but at the same time, he was a 4-year player at USC. I mean, surprisingly, Michael Pittman is going to turn 25 this season. For reference, Chris Godwin just turned 26. It's not like Michael Pittman is extremely young and you should expect him to continue to get better. I think if you own Michael Pittman, you're kind of just happy with where he was at this past season. And I would personally just prefer to hit that reset button, go get a 2023 first-round pick, have the flexibility to make additional trades with that pick, because I'll tell you right now, there's nothing more valuable in Dynasty at this point than loading up on those future firsts. We've talked about that. We talked about that months ago on how that 2023 class is something you should be investing in. But let's go to our next deal. This is going to be Donovan Peoples-Jones and the 207 for Kadarius Toney. Another one of these trades that it's hard for me to give you a concrete stance, because I will say, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones will see his value increase this offseason. Because if you look at that Cleveland situation, Jarvis Landry will either restructure that contract or get cut. We've talked about that at length. Maybe by the time this video comes out, that's already happened. And to go along with this, Rashad Higgins, free agent. Odell Beckham Jr., obviously no longer in Cleveland. So Donovan Peoples-Jones looks like he will be the wide receiver 1 on this depth chart at some point this offseason. Now, of course, it's hard to say that that's going to last until, week 1. Most likely it won't. If they do move on from those receivers, they're most likely bringing someone else in. They're most likely going out there or in drafting someone. But I think you'll probably have a good chance to sell Donovan Peoples-Jones at a high price. Now, if we go over and we look at who's currently ranked at the 207 in our rookie rankings, of course, you can find these on Locals, which is where these posts came from as well. The 207, we have Desmond Ridder, we have Christian Watson, Justin Ross in that range. Carson Strong. So if you're fine adding that player to Donovan Peoples-Jones for Kadarius Toney, I can completely understand why. Kadarius Toney, a receiver that had 189 receiving yards in a single week for the New York Giants this past year. Now, yes, he struggled with injuries, but this should be a much better coaching staff. The quarterback play can only get better. Even if they don't replace Daniel Jones is significantly better than what you had at the end of this past season. So even though I would probably wait to sell Donovan Peoples-Jones in a lot of leagues, I'm probably just going to go ahead and take Kadarius Toney here. And now our next trade going to be coming out from Yield Fates, who, in our last video was just throwing some ridiculous deals at us. And he traded away Derek Carr, Damien Harris, Pat Frymuth, and a future first, and received Justin Jefferson, the 201, and the 205. So let's try to actually name some rookies here that are going to be going at those picks. Currently, I have Jameson Williams ranked as our 201. We have George Pickens right after Jameson Williams. They're pretty much in that same tier with Jahan Dotson. They're all in that range. It's going to be dependent on the NFL draft with where those players end up going. You could possibly be looking at a Rashad White with those selections, and those players aren't that far off of what you're having with a Damien Harris. I think at this point, we can say Damien Harris, the 201, they're very comparable with their actual dynasty value. So let's just make this trade easy. Let's remove those pieces from the deal, and let's look at it as Justin Jefferson in a second or Derek Carr, Pat Frymuth in a first. Of course, you prefer Justin Jefferson. I think we really don't need to talk about that one too much. Now, going over to our next one that's going to come out from Sergio says, on a contending team with Jonathan Taylor, Justin Herbert, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Mark Andrews, Christian McCaffrey, Jalen Waddle, and T. Higgins, where I only need a quarterback 2. I traded 2 future firsts and a 2024 first for Lamar Jackson. Only need to start 1 running back, 2 receivers, 2 flex, and 2 quarterbacks. Okay, there are a couple things here. Hate the idea of looking at our roster, looking at the team need that we have, and then going and addressing it with future assets on March 9th. As we've discussed time and time again, I understand you're staring at your phone every day. You pull up Sleeper. You're like, oh, this roster would be beautiful, beautiful with the stud quarterback here. I understand the urge, but holding on to those picks 9 times out of 10 will be the better decision, and going out there and trading for that stud player when we have a much better understanding of the situation that they are in at the beginning of the season. Now, with that being said, with this format in particular, where you only need to start 1 running back, 2 receivers, 2 flex spots, and 2 quarterbacks, this is a league where quarterbacks have an absurd value. I know a lot of people say, oh, I play in a super flex league. Oh, I play in a 2 quarterback league. I understand it. No, you truly don't. If you only have to start a total of 7 options, let me get out my little calculator here. Off the top of my head, that's going to be 28% of your starting lineup accounted for by the quarterback position. But let me double check that. And I apologize. It wasn't 28. It was 28.57. 28.57% of your starting lineup is going to be accounted for by the quarterback position. Looking at quarterbacks' points per game compared to receiver, compared to running back, compared to tight end, we should naturally assume that quarterbacks are going to be driving the majority of this production. Quarterback alone is going to be driving about 40% of the production in your starting lineup in this format in particular. So for you to go out there and get Josh Allen and Justin Herbert, get Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, to get Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, you are going to be at such an advantage over the rest of your league where it doesn't matter if they load up on literally 15 players in the tier of DJ Moore. You go out there, get DJ Moore, get Garrett Wilson, get Hollywood Brown. Load up on 10 of those guys. You can't put them in your starting lineup. You can't catch up on this quarterback production no matter what. So I don't like the process of taking those future assets and trading it for a team need right now. However, based on the starting lineup requirements in this league in particular, I'm always going to be for going out there and overpaying for that elite level quarterback. Okay, so now let's go to our next question. That's going to come out from Gene Carlos, who says, DJ Moore for Kadarius Toney, a 2024 first-round pick, a 2023 second-round pick. It's a 10-team league where we start 2 quarterbacks, 3 receivers, 2 tight ends. 2 flexes, a tight end, and a kicker. First off, thank y'all so much for clarifying this actual settings in your league, because I promise you, settings matter so much in determining optimal roster construction, player value. I mean, this is something that I spent a significant portion of our time diving into in our Dynasty research book that will hopefully come out any day now for everybody. I'm just getting everything finalized, and I'm very, very, very excited to give that Dynasty book to y'all. But nonetheless, thank you. And with this league in particular, this is one where, I mean, depth isn't going to matter as much. I mean, if it's a 10-team league and we could start up to 5 wide receivers, I understand the thought process of saying, oh, well, maybe we want to go out there and just get as many assets as we can that are going to be startable. In reality, you're always going to be able to find wide receivers that are in that wide receiver 3 range. With that being said, to pivot down from DJ Moore to get Kadarius Toney and the future assets as well, I'm completely fine with it. Just because if you're looking at that 2024 first, especially during the season with the trade options that you should have available to you, I mean, you're going to be able to go out there and trade for exactly what you need. And as we've always said, everybody will trade for a future first-round pick. Not everybody's going to be willing to trade for DJ Moore. Okay, so Shane Coates coming out with our next question says, traded away Rashad Penny for the 201, traded away James Robinson for Cortland Sutton. This was a week and a half ago. Okay, so this was before the Russell Wilson trade. If you traded away James Robinson for Sutton before the Russell Wilson trade, I would have said I hated it. Now, obviously, it looks fantastic. And you traded away the 106 for Michael Carter. Honestly, I don't like that deal of moving the 106 for Michael Carter. I mean, if we just map out what you're going to have with that 106 selection. First off, there's the outside chance that the Jets bring in a free agent running back. So you're going to have to dodge free agency at the running back position for Michael Carter. Then you're going to have to dodge the NFL draft. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, Michael Carter looked great. Who's to say that they actually bring someone in? Yeah, I'll agree. He looked great. But at the end of the day, the most they have invested into this running back room, whether it's LaMichael Pirine or Michael Carter, really the only 2 running backs in the roster, it's a 4th round draft pick. They have no investment in the running back room whatsoever. I mean, you could easily see them deciding to go out there and sign someone like Sony Michel to split the backfield with Michael Carter. Not saying they should do it, but it's in the range of outcomes. You have to dodge free agency. You have to then dodge the NFL draft and avoid them taking someone like Breece Hall at the beginning of the 2nd round. And from there, if you dodge both of those, do you win a ton? Or is this just a marginal swap? Because if we go over and we look at who's currently valued at our 106, I currently have Kenny Pickett there. But keep in mind, not every draft room is going to be perfect. I think as it stands currently, there's a tier of 5 players at the top. Breece Hall, Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Malik Willis. In whatever order you want to have them, 2 through 5. You need to have Breece Hall at 1. So if there's a chance that one of those receivers or Malik Willis were to fall to you at the 106, even if the Jets do not add a single player to that backfield this upcoming season, you're still not profiting that much. So in my opinion, that's unnecessary risk. I'd prefer to hold on to the rookie pick 106. And after the NFL draft, after free agency, if you still want to go trade it for Michael Carter, then you can always do it. Okay, so now let's go over to locals, find our next question. It's coming out from Jay Mazier, who says, I acquired A.J. Brown for Michael Carter in the 106. Just talked about the possibility of Michael Carter. I don't want to say getting replaced, but getting added competition in his backfield. Love getting the top 5 dynasty wide receiver in A.J. Brown, getting that cornerstone asset, and really just washing your hands of all risk. Love that deal. AZ Ed coming out says, 1 quarterback PPR league, DK Metcalf, the 206, and Tony Pollard for Travis Etienne and a 2023 first and second. Love this deal. I will say in a 1 quarterback format, the 1st and 2nd round picks not going to be worth as much, but y'all know I was off of DK Metcalf before the Russell Wilson trade. One reason was because we knew there was a possibility Wilson got traded, despite everybody wanting to tell me I'm stupid, even though I am. So looking at Travis Etienne, another one of these running backs that has the size, has the speed, has the team investment, has the receiving game capability. Like I've always said, DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, they're the new age DeAndre Swift, Alvin Kamara. I really think that they are going to come out here and be that Aaron Jones player where they're getting every target out of the backfield, getting the touches in the red zone as well, and still incredibly young. Same age as DK Metcalf, if not younger. Love that deal. Full Chubb coming out says James Robinson and the 308. The 308 is literally garbage. James Robinson for Leonard Fournette and a future third. Yeah, give me Leonard Fournette over James Robinson every day of the week. I understand with Leonard Fournette, obviously don't know the situation he will end up, but if you look at the potential landing spots for running backs in this year's free agency, I actually think that Leonard Fournette has a real chance to go to Buffalo. I mean, if Fournette does go to Buffalo after us talking about it this much, you better believe I will be running victory laps. I will be screaming from the mountaintops because I didn't like Leonard Fournette at the beginning of the offseason, but that was when he was valued as a 3rd-round pick in best ball leagues. It's when he was valued as a 5th-round pick in dynasty startups. His value has gotten cut in half just because people kind of realize, oh crap, he's a free agent. Yeah, he's the same age as Kamara, same age as Dalvin. I mean, same age as all those 17-year-old running backs outside of CMC, Joe Mixon, who I have no idea how they're still so young. And he could possibly land in a great situation this offseason as well. James Robinson tore his Achilles at the very end of the year. What are we talking about here? Love that Leonard Fournette side. And Bold Phoenix coming out says, I've done 3 trades all in the same league. Acquired Calvin Ridley for a future third. Okay, so y'all know with Calvin Ridley, this is a player that I went out there and I said, buy, buy, buy. Literally a month ago. He was my #1 trade target in Dynasty. Well, obviously, we have just a completely new situation with Calvin Ridley being suspended for the season. And I am now telling most people, you know what? Not a good idea to trade for Calvin Ridley. Based on where we're seeing him go in Dynasty startup drafts, looks like you're still going to be paying a similar price for Calvin Ridley than he was going previously. The majority of leagues that I'm seeing, Calvin Ridley's worth that late first, early second, more so on the early second round pick side. And I'm saying, well, I definitely like Ridley for an early second round pick. We can just wait until next offseason and buy him for that same price. There's nothing that's going to increase. Oh my God, getting him for a third is literally laughable. It's one of the funniest trades we are ever going to see. Of course, that's great. Now, going over to our next deal, we got CMC, Hollywood Brown, and a future first for Javonte Williams and Deebo Samuel. I know most people are not going to agree with this one. I will say I like it. Specifically, if this is a super flex league where that 2023 first round pick will look like it's gold. I know most people will not agree with this. And I'm assuming you made this trade before Russell Wilson got traded. Of course, after Russell Wilson's traded, then all of a sudden, Javonte Williams is worth more than CMC, and you're just holding on to Javonte. But with the assumption this was before the Russell Wilson deal, Javonte, Christian McCaffrey, almost equal value. I know people will probably say Javonte is more value. CMC simply has the upside that nobody else in fantasy can match. We've seen him get up to 29, 30 points per game over an entire season. Jonathan Taylor, the running back one this past year, was hovering around 22. The gap between Christian McCaffrey 2019, Jonathan Taylor 2021 is essentially the same gap as the running back 1 overall to the running back 13 overall pretty much any other season. CMC has that league-breaking upside. So before you have Wilson coming over, I'm completely fine having CMC right next to Javonte Williams. And I would prefer Hollywood Brown in the future first over Deebo. Same draft class. I understand Deebo Samuel looked fantastic this past year. I'm worried about Lance hurting Deebo, and that Lance can take off and run, doesn't have to just dump the ball off. And more importantly, Lance will be vulturing touchdowns at the goal line. The touchdown rate for Deebo Samuel, I can guarantee, is going to come down this upcoming season. Both receivers have injury concerns. Hollywood Brown will be playing this upcoming year. And if you're getting that future first, it's almost always a good idea to pivot down a tier at wide receiver and pick up that extra future first. Because in reality, what's the points per game difference when Lamar Jackson was under center this past year? 2 to 3 points. Give me the first round pick. And then you also acquired a future first for essentially the 108 and the 208. I'm fine with it. I know it's a very popular trade at this point for people to go ahead and take their future first round picks. Take their current first round picks and trade them for 2023 first. I understand the thought process. The 108 is about where I think we have to begin to think about it. If it was the 110, of course, it's a no-brainer. Okay, so S. Barra is coming out and says 12-team Superflex, 6-point per passing touchdown format. Receive Dak Prescott. I will say Dak is definitely worth more in a 6-point per passing touchdown format than he's going to be worth a 4-point per passing touchdown. And the reason for this is in that 6-point league, you're really incentivized to go out there and get those pocket passing quarterback options, those guys that can be elite with their passing volume, but maybe aren't going to be rushing the ball as much. I mean, this is because if they're able to throw for the additional 10 passing touchdowns in a season compared to someone like Jalen Hurts, that's going to give them that bump up where possibly they can't get there running the ball. That's equivalent to like 200 rushing yards. So I love trading for Dak Prescott in this format in particular. We give up Waller, Zach Wilson, Rondale Moore. So I don't really want to be focusing on Rondale Moore, such a small part of this deal. I would say if this is a non-tight end premium league, completely smash it. And honestly, not even close. Now, I think that's all we got for this video. Of course, we're going to be doing these pretty much every single week. So please make sure you go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, and I'll be getting to as many of those comments as possible. Subscribe to the channel. And if you want to participate in future videos like this, if you want your trades highlighted, make sure you go check us out on Locals. You can find the link in the description of this video and in the comment section. But I think that should be it. Hope you have a great day and hope we get to see you out with the video tomorrow.